Hello and welcome to the latest edition of News Bites Scotland, your monthly morsel of news and views with a Scottish flavour. Produced with support from Independence Live and broadcast on Indie Radio Live. We're available also on YouTube and all your podcast places. Thank you for being with us. Your Central Belt correspondent and chief analyst is Michael McEwan, a freelance journalist and disability rights campaigner, whilst my name is Peter Newman, a freelance journalist, teacher and former political candidate based in the Highlands. So without further ado, let's take our first bite out of the news. Hello, Michael. Thank you for being with us.
Hello, Peter. Yes, I had to get off my sunbed to come and do this podcast.
It's pretty nice today, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it's 24 degrees down here, so that's
it's good. I was in Europe last week and it was over 40, and that is too hot. I did not enjoy that. The Highlands is a lot more temperate. So this week we are beginning with.
Yeah.
Go on.
Oh no, I think we've got a slight delay, but no, I never said anything. Maybe you can edit that out. Sorry.
Yeah, I will do. Don't worry. Okay, so our first piece of news this week is that the United Kingdom is going to get a new Prime Minister, because we didn't know that was going to happen. But today is Friday, the 17th of...
17th? Yes.
Is the 17th of July, and Andy Burnham has made his first speech as the newly elected, and I use that in the most inverted commas way possible, speech as UK Labour leader. He made a bunch of pledges. They do love a set of pledges. He is going to end divisiveness. I'll tell you what they are, Michael, and we'll see whether you can decide how achievable these are. He is going to end Labour's briefing culture. So he's going to build a culture of one Labour team, because change starts with us. He is going to create a new politics based on problem solving, not points scoring. I'm going to work to build a new politics. The country's crying out for it. We might enjoy the point scoring against others. The public don't. He is then going to win by being boldly, confidently, authentically Labour. So my third change is our political direction. Yes, we will work with other parties where we can, but doing so from the clarity and knowing exactly where we stand. His fourth is he's going to take back control from the right, because I'm clear Britain took a series of wrong turns in the 1980s. Political power was centralised, economic power was privatised. The country surrendered control of the essentials: housing, water, energy, transport, and left people exposed to higher costs. So he's going to be a prime minister for all places. I'll be a leader for the north, the south, the east and the west, for Scotland, Wales and for Northern Ireland. His fifth pledge is therefore about devolution: take back from Westminster and Whitehall and give it to the place where you live. And then his sixth one, which isn't official, is he's going to be a pro-business Labour leader. So there you go, Michael. There's an awful lot of you to chew over in that little tasty morsel from Andy Burnham, your Prime Minister-elect.
Yeah, so usually there's nothing on the TV to watch, but I watched it today. Was optimism, maybe that's the wrong word, and I was waiting for Andy Burnham just to say thanks to Michael McEwan and Peter Newman for this podcast, because basically thank everybody in that conference apart from I was so annoyed at him. I'll phone him later. No, seriously. So I only catch the end of his speech today about new politics and working for all parties. If you put these two things together, then he should really say to John Sweeney, well, if you want a referendum, yeah, have a referendum. So, but we know that he's never going to say that. But so if he's saying these two things, stick to them, but don't move the goalpost as soon as the SNP phones up and say, how about another independent campaign? Nope, to the old. But why say that? Why say that it'll work for the whole country if he's not going to listen to us in Scotland? But yeah, I mean, I think he did a full speech without actually talking about any policies.
I don't know if he's got any policies. I think he's pretty much decided he's going to stick to the manifesto that Labour was elected on. And then I think his theory is that he'll just do it better than Starmer. Now, okay, that's quite plausible in a way. He probably couldn't deliver it much worse. He certainly seems to have a bit of style compared to Starmer. But yeah, I mean, I think you've hit the immediate nail on the head there, which is, I mean, buried within that thing about we're going to govern as Labour and we won as Labour and da-da-da, is a kind of we've got the majority and we don't care. I think the problem with Starmer was that he actually didn't have the majority. Despite having the 400 and whatever MPs, he couldn't actually get them to do what he wanted them to do. So Burnham's going to need to demonstrate that he can actually command a majority of the House of Commons, and Starmer just wasn't able to do that. I don't think it's going to be anything like as easy as Burnham is making it sound. I think you're right. It's interesting. I saw John Swinney had come out straight away and said, congratulations to Andy Burnham. We'll work constructively with any UK Prime Minister to make the lives of the people in Scotland better. So the SNP are making the kind of the right noises in a way. But immediately you get to exactly what you just said, which is, okay, fine, how's our independence referendum? We can't have one.
Okay. Can I just make one other point? Peter, I think I've made this point on the other podcast, and you'd probably be sick of me saying this point as well, but like if we're in this position this time next year, or this time maybe see at Christmas, right, looking for a new Prime Minister, right, it's not a game, it's people's lives. And while they're passing the buck around to different people, yeah, do you want a job? Because I failed as well. But if you go outside, people is actually getting poorer by the day. So if that's the cost of living crisis, food banks, and I'm really disappointed about that because nobody has actually spoke about it in debates and all that about how will we shut down food banks. I mean, for God's sake, last year was it King Charles opened up a food bank, and you're thinking, well, I don't think that's a brilliant thing. I think that's a bad thing. I think that's an embarrassing thing for the country to open up a bloody food bank. As well, I mean, look, we've got to give them time, right? But at the same time, me and you can speak a good game, but can we deliver what we're saying? I think that's two different things there.
It is, and I don't think that they have any. So your key thing about addressing structural poverty, I don't think they're anywhere on that. I think the answer is they just don't have. They don't have any answers. They don't have any policies. They never have had. Maybe not never, but in recent history they haven't had. Starmer didn't. Their manifesto didn't. There's been some kind of, one of the things that you can say about the SNP is that they've tried to put in policies that have addressed that. Swinney has said child poverty is the thing. The Scottish child tax payment thing is the thing that independent people are saying is making the biggest difference to child poverty. There's nothing like that in England. There's no moves to make anything like that. There's no moves to even really seriously address the food bank stuff. Swinney came out in the election and said about putting the kind of supermarket caps on the money, on the food, and was told that that can't be done. Almost the next week, Labour came out and said they would do something similar, except they'd make it voluntary, which of course the supermarkets won't do. So you're right. Burnham intellectually, I think, probably knows that. You know, his statement about we're not going to be in hock to the bond markets is actually a kind of an acknowledgement that he does kind of understand where some of these issues are, but he doesn't have any policies and he doesn't have a mandate. He doesn't have an election. Like I say, Labour don't have any sort of solutions to this stuff. There's no big ideas in this Labour Party. The big idea was we're not the Tories. Okay, like that's, you know, that can be a winning proposition, particularly with that, what the last incarnation of that Tory party after 18 years was staggering towards. But it's not a solution, and I don't see anybody getting less poor. So yeah, I think treat with extreme caution is right.
I think as well that the longer you leave poverty, right, the harder it would be to fix. It's a bit like you in a car going down a one-way street and you're thinking, oh shit, how will I get out of here? You know, so that's a bit like, I know that's maybe poor comparison and stuff like that, right? But if they leave poverty any longer than what it should have been sorted out 5 minutes ago, no matter who comes in, no matter what government comes in, it's going to be much harder for them to fix. Or do they forget about it?
No, you couldn't be more right. For 40 years, since Thatcher, right? So since the Labour Party in the late 70s decided that they weren't going to go for poverty reduction, they weren't going to go for full employment, they weren't going to do that. What they were going to do, that Thatcher, you can find clips of Thatcher actually saying, this is an amount of inequality that we can live with, right? Since that was the choice in the kind of 80s, where it was like, we're going to let some people get incredibly rich and we're going to leave a bottom 20% who we're okay with being poor, basically, is what it came down to. What you have had is cycle after cycle after cycle of policies that have just doubled down on that. Now, it is true that there is a chunk of people in this country who are doing very nicely, thank you. Not just the super rich, they're kind of an outlier as well. But if you look at that kind of bell curve in the middle of like the middle class, there is some very wealthy, you know, Newton Men's is obviously always the kind of cliche, but there are a lot of people who are fine. And they have a vested interest in this being the way it is, right? But that bottom 20% are the people that cost you all of the money in the NHS. They cost you all of the money in benefits. They cost you all of the money in crime and justice. They cost you all, right? Now, that is because you've had people who for 3 generations, sometimes now 4 generations, haven't had work, haven't had any route out of that grinding poverty. And it's just been doubled down and doubled down. So the coalition government came in, and the decisions that they made in 2010 has led to a generation of babies being born with low birth weights. Babies being born with low birth weights, and the explosion of the food banks, like you just said. I know you've made this point before. I've definitely told you this story before. I was once in Singapore talking to a lady who had been born in Poland under communism, and we were telling her about the food banks in the UK. And she was genuinely shocked, like genuinely horrified. She said, even under communism, we never had that. She said, like, we had poverty. She said, but nobody ever starved. The food wasn't great. You know, you ate a lot of turnips, but there was always enough to eat. And so to be behind communist Eastern Bloc Europe is crazy to me. And those are decisions that were taken quite deliberately. And I told you I was in Europe last week. One of the things I've been to, I haven't been on many holidays for the last like 7-8 years because I was caring for a parent, dementia and all this stuff. But I'm telling you, like, what the 2 times I've been in the last year, I went to a football weekend in Poland and I went to Portugal recently. And one of the things that just makes me very, very sad is that both of those countries that used to be very, very, very far behind in terms of the United Kingdom, in terms of economic development and blah, 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 they are now set to, or if have already overtaken us.
Yep.
And they feel like places where stuff is happening, right?
Yeah.
There's stuff being built, the roads are good, the money, like, we were in a very rural part of Portugal, and they have the same issues that we have in Highland with depopulation and blah, blah, blah. But they're trying to bring them back. They're trying to build little something. Now, if I nearly called him Starmer, if Burnham can come up with some policies like that can get young people back out into these communities, then fine, more power to his elbow. But I don't see anything that makes me think he's actually going to be able to deliver on that.
Yeah, I mean, only time will tell, but I mean, you know how it is, Peter. Like, when you go for any job, right, you can say, "Oh, I'm brilliant at this," and and stuff like that. And when you get in the door, I'm not going to swear here because it's a podcast, but you're actively garbage at it. And then the next person comes in and he does the exact same, blah, blah, blah. It's a conveyor belt. But as I say, people outside doesn't really care. That's why people fell out of love with politics now. Because I bet you if you do a survey up in Inverness or Glasgow or whatever, they don't know who your local MP is or what party is in power and all the rest of it. So it's all like reading from a script that wasn't written by you. I'm guessing that wasn't written by you. Maybe you add one or two wee bits and take one or two wee bits out. But that speech today was okay. Oh, thank you to everybody. When I was in the front benches and all that. Yeah, but what you got to do?
Yeah, and why is that enough? It's like, yeah. Okay. I mean, I'm actually quite pleased he hasn't had a general election. I think I'm a bit electioned out personally at the moment, but he doesn't have a mandate. It is what it is. Right, let's move on to happy news, Michael. I think we've wrung everything we can out of Andy Burnham.
I didn't think we could speak about anything happy in this podcast.
We will know on Monday what Andy Burnham's cabinet is going to look like and stuff. So, now for some happy news. The World Cup continues, young Michael.
Oh, I thought you said happy news, Peter.
It's the longest tournament in history.
Okay, we're not going to talk about Scotland. But yeah, the World Cup. And I don't know about you, right, but it seems to be going on for about 5 or 6 weeks now. I mean, I remember I was speaking about the podcast 2 podcasts ago. Yeah. And here we are coming up.
Well, brace yourself, because Infantino was talking about expanding it to 69 teams, Michael.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's another money man. And don't get me started on him, because I saw him at a G8 summit. Was it last year? Somebody called it Donald Trump. I don't know how you can mix football and politics, but there you go. Yeah, I wish that someone from the SFA would have phoned FIFA and said, can you just let Scotland into the next round, because we haven't qualified again. The fans have been happy, i.e. I'm having a dig there at Donald Trump after an American player get sent off on his red card, get rescinded. I mean, I think there's been far too many games, right? Even for me, because I'm a big football fan, as you know, right? But also, this is the first World Cup that I care to remember that I haven't saw all the games, because it's been kickoffs at 4:30 in the morning and all that. I won't miss that.
No, but I tell you what else we won't miss, Michael. We won't miss England, who have been sent packing by the Argentinians in what was a really quite exciting semi-final, to be fair. Oh dear, the little hearts broke in the last 10 minutes. It was. Did you enjoy the game, Michael?
Yeah, I'm surprised that you've asked me that question, Peter, because if you look at our WhatsApp group, even though, well, I say group, there's only me and you in it. It's not made up of thousands of people. If you, I wouldn't say if you want to tap into our phones, because then I would be somewhere else by now. Anyway, that's a different conversation for a different podcast. But I think I sent you about 10 messages during the game, and stuff like that. So yeah, I was happy. And now, Peter, I can watch the TV again.
The commentary was very, very annoying, wasn't it? I found it almost unwatchable. I actually couldn't. I had to turn it off during the Ghana game completely. I couldn't watch the second half of that because I just was so annoyed with this seeming belief that the Ghanaians were in some way, breaking that nature's law by refusing to let England win. And it was, it was very similar to that. It was this whole kind of, oh yeah, but we're destined to win, and da 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 da. And it was just so offensive, really. And again, there's this belief that everybody is obviously supporting England, and you're like, no, they're not. There's quite a lot of people who are absolutely looking to see them get horsed here. And it's kind of, and I also think, well, I don't know. Did you notice? I don't know if you. I did watch some of the end analysis as well, and already they were talking about had Tuchel made a mistake tactically, and is this the end for him, and da da da. And you think they're just doomed to repeat.
Yeah. It's just what I've been saying about the Prime Minister. It's just a conveyor belt. It's like, because when Tuchel was appointed, they weren't sure, just because I think it was a German and all the rest of it. I'm not going to get into it here. I'm sure you know the history. But people, a lot of people say, okay, we'll just back him because he's the manager of the team. And you had, because England was going so well during the tournament, even though I don't think they were playing well, they were still getting the results. They weren't making any iota about Tuchel. But as soon as the game finished, oh yeah, put the knife in him.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I thought it was quite interesting to me. As you know, I used to do a lot of kind of freelance sports stuff, but I haven't in the last few years. So it was quite interesting coming back to it with a kind of fresh eye. It's been a long time since I watched a lot of football, certainly at that level. And I was quite struck by, in the first few games, how far Pickford was pushing out as a sweeper kind of goalkeeper. Is a guy who I don't think is that talented. I think as a goalkeeper, he's fine. He's obviously plays with his heart in his sleeve, and he's all right. He's an okay shot stopper, I suppose. But I never think of him as a footballing goalkeeper, and suddenly he's standing on the halfway line. You're like, okay, quite bold. So Tuchel's obviously got a very compressed idea. He's using that kind of gegenpress, isn't he, and kind of really pushing in. So I was quite struck by that. And then I was very struck in that first half where, in the Argentina game, where they were very disciplined, squeezing the space. Messi has had a couple of really quite poor touches. And you thought, okay, I can see what they're trying to do here. But it didn't look very ambitious. It didn't look like, this is a team that's going to be capable of winning a World Cup. It looked like a fairly bang average, pretty organised team, And then, of course, in the second half, that's exactly what happened, isn't it? Messi started finding space, and the discipline broke down, and they didn't really. And you thought, right, well, they've got no answer to this, really. How do you rate Bellingham?
He never. I don't think he showed up there all night. I think he's an okay player. See, I don't watch him week in, week out, so it's quite hard for me to kind of like judge as well. But going by reports, and maybe the English media are biased.
No, surely
We
not.
know. Yeah, I know that's an exclusive. You can put that as a headline at the front. Michael thinks things of me. But I'm not sure, Peter, an answer to that one because I don't watch him week in week out. But he must be a good player. I was playing at a decent level now.
Yeah, I see. I'm very similar. Like I said, I don't watch him weekend, but I was quite struck by how petulant he was.
Yeah.
I did. Yeah, when he was a young fella, which is kind of the last time I sort of watched him semi regularly, I didn't see that kind of aspect so much to his game, but it certainly does seem to be very much part of it now. And he's all. I mean, he's quite. I saw some England fans were getting on the back of Messi. You know, oh, he's a cheat, and you're like, Bellingham's exactly the same. Like Bellingham's hitting the deck every time. There's no, and I think they're just called footballers. It's kind of what they do. Still, they're going to get horsed off France, I think, in the third, fourth playoffs. That's quite fun.
Yeah. I'm actually quite surprised France wasn't in the final. I don't know about you, but I was a wee bit disappointed in them in the semi-final.
You could argue that both England and France, as soon as they came up against a half-decent team, fell apart. France, I thought were nailed on for the tournament and had a slightly harder run to the semis. Spain contained the midfield, and suddenly France didn't have any answers at all. England had played a bunch of really quite bang average teams. I know Mexico's record at home is quite good, but if you look at who they've actually played, it's not been that great. And they actually huffed and puffed past them 3-2. Fair enough. And then a midfield in Argentina that was really quite tasty. They just didn't have an answer to. And so it's going to be interesting because I think you're up for Spain and Argentina probably have the two best midfields in the tournament. And so, yeah, I don't know who's going to win. I feel like Spain, but maybe that's just gibberish, really. So, have you got a bet?
Anything but England. Also got that as well. By the way, I want England to finish in fourth place as well. Not that it really matters because they're not in the final. And I don't know if you heard the English media the other day saying because they held the banner up, the Argentina players held the banner up at the end of the game that they should get kicked out, and I'm like that. That's funny, isn't it? It's just because you want to get the final and get maybe Horsk in the final as well. But I'm not actually sure. I mean, Spain did look good against France, but then again, France was wiping everybody's. Well, I wasn't going to say what I was thinking about saying there because I can't say that. But I think I don't know. I don't know if you can guess what I was about to say there. But yeah, I was quite surprised at France the other night. But up until that, Peter, they looked good on games, and Spain was the opposite. They were looking very poor as well. But there's some team, but yeah, it's difficult to kind of call this game. I would be very surprised. I would be surprised if it finished in 90 minutes.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. Yeah, I think it feels like it's probably got extra time written all over it, doesn't it?
Yep.
So our third sporting story. No, it isn't. It's our third story. It's our second sporting story. Is the arrival of the Commonwealth Games, and this has been occupying your mind for a good number of months now, hasn't it, Michael?
Yeah, I've not been sleeping well at night, Peter, worrying about it and stuff like that. But I mean, George Square is not finished because, I think they started working at, what was it, last year? And I don't know if you heard Glasgow Central Station, the the main entrance is back open now after the fire. Like the first time since maybe about 3 or 4 months, or maybe more than that, and that's good to see. But yeah, it's had a bit of a different build up to that. Funny enough, I was over at the where the SACC is the other week, and it's nice that they've got all the different flags up with all the different Commonwealth countries as well. But it, it's not the same build up as it was back in 2014, but um, yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it. It's going to be good for the city and the economy and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, we need to remember that Glasgow's actually did well to pull them off because, as you know, the games were meant to be in Victoria in
That's right.
Australia.
Yeah, in the Gold Coast, wasn't it? That's
Yeah.
I was going to ask you do you think that's why it hasn't had the same build up? Do you think it's because it's sort of last minute?
Yep. It's it's funny because Victoria says, "Well, we've got no money," and Glasgow's will say, "Okay, we'll take it." And you're thinking, "Well, Glasgow's not got a lot of money either,"
Yeah.
you know. But never mind. But yeah, I think they've did well to pull the venues off, even though I've made up a sheet of paper where all the games are and the venues and all that. There's that, believe it or not, there's only 4 venues this year. It's holding like
Really?
10 sports and 4 venues. So I think they've actually did well to pull it off in a short space of time.
Definitely. So what are the 10 sports?
So yeah, 10 sports, 6 para sports. So the para sports are kind of integrated within the Commonwealth Games. It's not like where the Olympics and the Paralympics, it's mixed together in the Commonwealth. And I don't know about you, but I like it that way. So if I just give you a wee rundown of what's happening where, we've got the athletics and para athletics in the Scots and ski game.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got the bowls and the para bowls and S the SC Belt Centre. It's funny that because when I was looking it up, they don't call it the SECC now. They just call it the SEC for some reason. And that's where the boxing is as well. And the judo, get my teeth in the right way there, is also in the SEC Centre, so it's going to be quite busy in there. The artistic gymnastics at the Glasgow International Arena, and also that's where the crack cycling and the para cycling is. If we go over to, if we go up the road, actually, it's still in the East End of Glasgow. That's where the swimming and para swimming is in Cold Cross International Swimming Centre. Back to the SEC High, the Armadillo. That is where the weightlifting is and the powerlifting is. And if you like your netball, well, you need to go back to the hydro for that. So that's all your sports and all your venues for the game that kicks off a week tomorrow. Is that right? 23rd, or a week today?
Yeah, a week today.
Yeah. So it's on between the 23rd to the 2nd of August.
And I mean, it really has been an area of interest to you, hasn't it? You were kind of quite passionate about it. So is there anything in there that you're actually looking forward to seeing?
Yeah, well, we are maybe we're trying to get tickets for some of the sports. The last time we went to see in 2014, that seemed like years ago. Well, it was years ago now. We went to see the boxing in the SECC. And if I can tell you a very quick story about 2014, Peter, right? So my mum's pal was a volunteer. However, she was going to take my mum to that event, right? But my mum and her pal couldn't go. So me and my partner went along to the dress rehearsal. It was at Celtic Park on Monday night because we got free tickets and all the rest of it. So they were doing the rehearsal and they went over to Glasgow Green, and I think it was Brian Bernard. It was doing the comparing for Glasgow for the Commonwealth Games, and they basically said, "Yeah, okay, we'll hand over to Brian now." And Brian was saying, "What? I can't hear you. It's so noisy in here." And the park was empty because it was a rehearsal for the Wednesday night. So I went to the rehearsal. I never went to the full thing. I went to that rehearsal, went to the boxing, and went to Glasgow just to see what it was like during the games. And it was brilliant atmosphere. It was a lot of colour, a lot of noise, a lot of people with different countries and all the rest of it. They had a Commonwealth Games shop in George Square. I don't know where the shop is going to be this year, if they're actually going to have a shop. But no, I mean, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Should be good.
It should be. I mean, I'm really looking forward to it. One of my former pupils is competing in the Paralympics. In the Para Commonwealth Games. So she's a woman called Hope Gordon, who I worked with a long time ago, and she's been.
Is that is she in the running athletics? No.
No, so she was. She's done. It's actually ridiculous. So she's a world championship gold medalist. She's a Paralympic silver medalist, and she was a para canoeist, and she was also a para Nordic skier. But she's been picked for Team Scotland in the para powerlifting as well. So she's now adding a third sport. She's an absolutely incredible young lady who her story is incredible. She when she was a kid, she had this issue with her leg, and she was off school for nearly a year, and she was just 12 years old, and she started getting pain in her left leg, and she was diagnosed eventually, really long time, with a thing called complex regional pain syndrome, which basically meant they had absolutely no idea what the hell it was. It was just incredibly sore. And she'd been a very good competitive swimmer as a youngster. And eventually they amputated it. And she actually had to fight to have the leg amputated because there was nothing wrong with it, except there was something wrong with it. And so the whole thing was a complete, it went on for years. It was so difficult for her. Like the leg started kind of turning in on itself, and they could never find what had actually happened. But it's an incredible story. And eventually, I think she ended up having to go to America to have it amputated because they would do it. But then you had to fundraise for it and all that stuff. It was unreal. And all of this while she was still a teenager. It was heartbreaking. But talk about when life is difficult, mate. Gives you lemons. And she's competed in all these sports, and so she must be 32, 31, 32, and she's competing in a third sport at the Commonwealth Games. So I'm really looking forward to that. So that's the para powerlifting, Michael. You can cheer on Hope, but you would be anyway because she'd be for Team Scotland. So where are you going to watch it, Michael?
Yeah, I'm going to watch it on here. I'm going to watch it on the TV, but it's going to be a wee bit different this year, as you know, Peter. I think you set me up well there. If I was in the box, that would have been a goal, Peter, or maybe it would have been ruled out for VAR. I'm not sure, but yeah. So the games were meant to be on First of all, the sports on TNT Sports live coverage of the game, meaning the BBC won't showcase it. And believe it or not, this is the first time since this is the first time in history that the Commonwealth Games has not been on terrestrial TV since 1954. I don't know if I was about then. I can't remember if I was about then or not. Maybe not. And but for the first time in history, the games will be on BBC Alba, Peter, as well.
Yeah, it's so basically they lost the rights. You would think that the Commonwealth Games would be part of the crown jewels, like Wimbledon, like the Olympics, like the World Cup finals. But in actual fact, they're not. And the BBC simply got outbid for the rights. The Channel 5 then managed to get a packet of highlights every day because TNT just were able to put down an amount of money that the BBC just couldn't justify. But it is... the government don't help themselves, do they? They should have just... how hard would it have been to add it to the set of crown jewels? But they won't, and therefore, it is. You see it with football all the time. The fragmentation of the kind of media market for football. You wonder why more kids don't play, and the answer is because you can't afford to watch it. You think about how much football you were able to watch when you were a kid, how much football I was able to watch when I was a kid. Irrespective of what Sky was doing to the Premier League itself, you could watch an awful lot. And you could watch all of the Olympics, you could watch all of the, and now that's another opportunity taken away from a bunch of young people. And it's particularly irritating this time around because, like you just said, Scotland have kind of pulled the games out of its, orifice at the short notice to bail out the Gold Coast. There's a chance to really build a legacy with billing it as Scotland's Summer of Sport. And now, unless you can speak Gaelic, you're not going to see it.
And also it's paying a paywall as well.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah. You can either you pay for it or you can watch it in Gaelic.
Yeah,
those are not ideal.
Yeah, or Channel 5's got the highlights, but you've got to wait until I'm not sure what time they're on it. So athletics doesn't work as well with highlights either. I don't think. I think it's not quite the same as football. It's there's something about the live coverage, isn't it? Well, basically, you know the winner before you actually see it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's very true. But I mean, I don't know. It's exciting. I'm really pleased that Scotland's hosting it. I think it does. When I flew from Edinburgh Airport and I came out and I saw McTominay's overhead kick is being used as a poster. I would like to think that we will be able to build on Scotland's legacy of sport with the Commonwealth Games, but I just fear that without those kind of unifying moments where everybody gets around the TV and can see it live at the same time, it's just going to sink without trace. These are let's be honest, they're fairly obscure sports to start with. They don't get a huge audience most of the time, and now we've just made it more difficult for a bunch of people to pick them up. Well, so what's the hope unless you're somebody like my former pupil Hope who can actually step in?
And
anyway,
No, I was just going to say, and you would think they would make it the effort because it's not all the sports, Peter. Like I don't know about you, but I like watching hockey. I don't follow hockey very often. I just follow hockey at the Olympics and the Commonwealth Games, and they're not on it. So it's a kind of like the just timetable of sports. That's why there's only kind of like 10 this year, including 6 para sports. But yeah, I know it's going to be I think I fear it's going to be a bit of a damp squid, but that's me just being negative. I'm sure it'll be Commonwealth Games party, I'm sure. Yeah.
Thank you ever so much, Michael, for your company and your analysis as ever. This has been Newsbite Scotland. We are going to clamp our jaws shut. We will see you when we rejoin you in a couple of weeks. Take care. This has been News by Scott.